Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the United States. And also, Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe. And we're the only sports show in the universe that does a freestyle. That means no teleprompters and no producers microphone in your ear. I also want to say bienvenidos to all of our great listeners in Latin America. So thank you so much for following Charlton and Big C Sports, and across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Thank you so much for following Big C Sports worldwide. And I want to say Canada, but Big C, I think my voice is better now. I told you, don't spend too much time in the black hole, Big C, even if you're giving out moonshine. And don't trade beer and liquor with them either, Big C, because sometimes you come up with a raspy voice. But I want to say, oh, Canada. It's almost there, Big C, so don't hate me for that, Canadians. But Big C, there's no one I love more than the land of the free and the home of the brave. And even though we have the best intelligence in the world, Big C, Donald Trump doesn't trust the intelligence of the United States, but he trusts Vladimir Putin. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he is Donald, because the intelligence will tell the American public the truth.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that he's worried about. I mean, we hear Donald all the time, we see Donald all the time, and you look at the statements he made, he's thinking of the statements that he can make in the business world.
Yeah.
This is the real world. This is what grown-ups play now in national politics, okay? So these kid games that he's used to orchestrating don't fly. And so now he has to berate and belittle the people that are in national security, these people who have protected our country over the decades.
Yeah.
That have advised all the presidents for the past 80 years. And so what he's saying is that the people that have been advising presidents for longer than he are inaccurate and inept. And, I look at the buffoons that he has hired.
Yeah.
Who are going out defending all of what he's saying. They say, well, what he's saying is this. No, we heard what he said. He tweeted it. He typed it.
Yeah, he typed it.
That's what he meant. It wasn't that someone misspoke or misquoted him. These are his quotes. So the people that he's hired to go out and lie for it to the public, well, when you think about this circus that is being created by Donald Trump and his staff, this is what America's up for. Everyone talked about, he's going to bring jobs back to America, he's going to save jobs. Charlton, did you hear about the clothing empire today?
Oh, yeah.
And Sears. Between the two of these people, Charlton, they're closing down 180 stores.
Yeah.
Between Macy's and Sears. So go out and think about how many people that are losing their jobs and 180 stores being closed. He raved about the courier jobs, that he saved.
Yeah.
He raved about Ford leaving a few jobs in America. He's not telling people about the 1,800 people that GM is laying off because they're moving a model of cars. So 1,800 that are lost versus the 1,400 that he saved. Now, I'm trying to do the math and see if he's in the plus minus.
Oh, yeah.
As he's talking and jobs are leaving America at a record pace now because he's become president, when you think about major retailers closing down, and he talked about, Christmas sales being up, so if Christmas sales did so great, why are so many retailers closing their doors now?
Well, Big C, that is so powerful, and this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And also, Big C, have you washed the Escalade yet, or are you going to keep it dirty into the new year, Big C?
Well, Charlton, this is that time of inclement weather this time of the year. So, why waste water when
Yeah.
I don't want to go out there and drive up on the lawn and have all these soap suds, possibly killing spots on the grass.
Exactly.
I'm going to let Mother Nature let the truck look the way it's supposed to look, Charlton. If she feels it should be cleaned a little bit, she'll let it be clean. But if she feels that it's looking more lavish, being murky and dirty, I'm going to leave it that way.
Well, Big C, that's funny. I was doing this thing of taking all this different moonshine and elixir and certain things to my voice, and it's actually coming back. They said it should be all good by Friday, just in time for the Raiders to play against the Houston Texans and also the Giants to play against the Green Bay Packers. But I heard a brother named Jamie Foxx. He was actually on ESPN last night, he was trying to clear his throat. I thought he also was sitting down in the black hole and got offered some of that homemade moonshine, Big C. Have you heard Jamie Foxx asking for a laundry, Big C?
Jamie Foxx is such a dynamic person over the years, Charlton. I think about his early days of his career back in the 80s and 90s, Charlton, when he started out in Living Color with the Wayne
Oh, yeah.
and Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And a great line of that actors and actresses, even J-Lo was on that show, Charlton. But how he's matured and grown up in the acting industry, Charlton. He has his own television show. But when you think about the wealth of movies that he's done, and we're probably the first group of people who brought Hollywood into our show, and now it's become a mainstay.
Oh, yeah.
For everybody. They're bringing in the rappers, they're bringing in, the actors, but I think even more so about the actors, and Jamie Foxx has crossed over into that job, and he's produced and released a couple albums also. But when you think about mainstream sports shows, you think about 4 years ago, Charles, they wouldn't have had a rapper on the show because they would have been scared.
Yeah, it's called Too Black. They thought it was Too Black, Big Z.
These guys may say some of the stuff that they have on their songs. So
Yeah.
we can't have them on the show.
Yeah.
But now they're feeling comfortable like they're their neighbors.
Yeah.
But you look at Jamie Foxx. He's even crossed over into sports films on any given Sunday with Al Pacino, Cameron Diaz.
Yeah.
He played Dennis Quaid. They played a football movie back then. He also was with Bruce Willis, Charlton, in The Last Boy Scout.
Yeah, Last Boy Scout.
Sports movie also. But the wealth of work they've done. A lot of people don't realize he was in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie.
Yeah.
So he's played a lot of roles. I like one of my favorite roles was when he played a cab driver in a movie called Collateral with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Where he had to save his girlfriend that he didn't realize Tom Cruise had a hit out on, Charlton. But he's done such a wealth of movies. He's acted with Kevin Costner. One of the more exciting movies he did was the Kingdom Bill, where he was in the Middle East War.
Yeah.
There was soldiers. So he's done so many things. But to be on the shows now, Charlton, and get the accolades that he does from mainstream media, where he was too hard to touch. 15 years ago, you didn't want him on.
Yeah.
Because he was this so-called just a black actor.
Well,
That's how they looked at it.
Big C, and you're right. I think he's the best actor in the world, and I say that not only can the brother sing, I mean, he has an amazing voice. He played Ray Charles so good. Ray Charles thought he was he thought he was looking in the mirror. He played Ray Charles so great, and he's funny. The guy's down to earth. He's a good-looking guy. He's well cut, and he's a great. I just want to say he's a great performer. The guy can do everything, and he reminds me of the same brothers that were in Straight Outta Compton, where you had the Ice Cube came out of Straight Outta Compton, Dr. Dre. They were all part of that Snoop Dogg, and they had all these brothers that were told by mainstream at the time, Big C, that you guys are too cutting edge, you're too rough, and maybe people won't buy your music. But white Americans buy more of the rap music than anybody else, Big C. Most of these guys have come on to become millionaires and billionaires because they do it their own way. And just want to get your thoughts on that, Big C.
I really look at Jamie Foxx more as the modern day Sidney 48.
Oh, yeah. But Sidney can't sing, Big C. Sidney can't sing like Jamie.
Yeah, but Sidney was a modern trailblazer. You think about the movies. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, where he played the first interracial, couples role in a mainstream movie.
Yeah.
You think about that. This was back in the 60s when he played that role.
Yeah.
And Hollywood was not ready for it. America was not ready. We had just we were still in desegregation at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this movie wasn't played all over America. So when you think about taking on roles like that, when you have Jamie Foxx, he's taking on roles in movies like Django.
Yeah.
Dealing with slavery. So, he's done a lot of things, playing the law-abiding citizen, with Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
This man has diversity, so he is taking on roles, and when he played Ray Charles, as you spoke about, you couldn't tell it wasn't Ray Charles. He did all the actual singing in the movie himself. He didn't need to voice over and lip-sync with Ray. He was just that talented. But a man who is daring and dynamic to take on roles that other actors are intimidated by.
Yeah.
He's not, Charlton. And he's that way in society. When he puts himself out there, you're going to get a quality performance. You're you're going to get a quality character.
Yeah.
But the thing about it, Charlton, you hear no Hollywood scandals about Jamie Foxx.
No.
Now, this is what, mainstream has a hard time with. They're always expecting some African-American entertainer to have some trail behind them that will tarnish their careers.
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx doesn't do that. He's a normal citizen, but, it's a shame that people look for that. When they go out there, these things happen. It's almost like with the New York Giants players, Charlton.
Yeah.
And this has been done for years with players who could afford to do what they wanted to do on their days off. Think about the NBA teams, Charlton. The players who don't make the All-Star team.
Yeah.
Because this is a mid-season thing. Even in the NHL, these players take off and go wherever they want to go, Charlton, for 4 or 5 days. No one ever says a thing about it.
Yeah.
But the reason why mainstream media is so upset with the Giant players is because they were
African-American, yeah.
And nothing else, Charlton. African-American. There's players go off and do things all the time during the season.
Yeah.
Okay? We've had players disappear during the season. So, to get all these players about having fun for one day.
Yeah.
They spend out an entire week to get away for you get ready for the game. But it's still a hot topic today, Charlton, on radio and television, that these players were down in Miami having fun as mid-20-year-old men.
Yeah.
How dare they? How dare that they take their millions and do what they want without us instructing them to do what we want them to do?
Well, Big C, I tell you, last time I was down in Miami, they have, I'd say, the second most beautiful women in the world, or at least in the United States, outside of California. They all wish they could be California girls, Big C. I know you good old boys might have a fist fight over that, Big C, but, just so many things that Jamie Foxx has done, and we talk about the world of sports. And Big C, thinking of the world of sports, look at what's happening in hockey in the NHL with the Columbus Blue Jackets going for their 17th consecutive win on Thursday night tonight. And they would tie the longest streak in the NHL. Big C, your thoughts on that accomplishment?
Well, Charlton, this is a phenomenal accomplishment. When we talk about 17 in a row, that's the same record that the Miami Dolphins had during their undefeated season.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were a perfect 17 and 0. So that number means a lot. The New England Patriots also went 17 and 0. New England Patriots, Charlton, actually went 19 and 0.
Yeah.
Actually 20 and 0 prior to losing to the Giants in the Super Bowl. So when you think about accomplishment that teams can do, we saw the Golden State Warriors, a couple years ago, Charlton, was it 33 and 0?
Yeah, 33, yeah.
And so when you think about streaks in sports, and everyone always talks about certain records are unattainable after they've been set. We know Wilt's record won't be touched.
Yeah.
Because basketball, that was just a one.
You mean the 20,000 women or the points that he scored in the game, Big C? Which one won't be touched?
Well, let's flip a coin to figure out which one.
Yeah, he's up there.
You think about Wayne Gretzky's point total in the NHL would never be eclipsed.
Yeah.
But, the Columbus Blue Jackets, Charlton, to be up in obscurity, basically in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
And the only thing people thought about in Columbus, Ohio, was Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, the Buckeyes.
Football team, okay?
Yeah.
Nothing else. The Buckeyes football team, because when basketball season came along, it was just a waste of spring practice. But when you think about the seat of the NHL, and the NHL, has some pockets that are not so great all the time.
Yeah.
To be up in Columbus, and you're sitting midway between the U.S. and Canada, and you have those Canadian teams that are up there that everybody, lives in a state of roar about.
Well, wait a minute, Big C. I disagree with you. Sarah Palin said that she thought Alaska was closer to Russia than Canada is to the United States, Big C. Was she wrong, Big C?
Well, this was the governor of Alaska. Everything was a whiteout there.
Okay, I understand.
She couldn't tell north from south, all right?
Yeah, I understand.
That's where she was. And you were drinking moonshine. You talking about me drinking moonshine?
Yeah.
Who knows what she was drinking?
Oh, who knows? She was drinking something. Yeah.
But you gotta love the story up in Columbus. They win tonight. They tied an all-time record, Charlton. They're just 2 games away from setting a new standard for the NHL.
Yeah.
And when you think about the NHL and its coverage here in the U.S. that doesn't, especially in certain states, in the Midwest and even out west, you got a couple teams, but it doesn't get the fanfare that you get up in the Northeast. And to have a Midwestern team, Charlton,
Yeah.
to hold the NHL record, the Pittsburgh Penguins currently hold that record, okay?
Yeah.
When they had the great Mark Mario Lemieux.
Yeah, Lemieux.
Who is now in ownership. But that's when they set that record. And they went on to win a Stanley Cup title. Hopefully it will happen for Columbus. It's always nice, Charlton, to see a new team win a championship in the league, someone who hasn't been there. We get so used to the fanfare of the teams that have always won, but when someone sneaks in and wins the championship, it's unexpected. I remember when the Houston Rockets won back-to-back championships where the titles had always been East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah.
Okay, Lakers, Celtics. People thought the Knicks were finally going to break in, but they trounced the Knicks. They trounced the Orlando Magic, and this was Patrick Ewing and Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
And Hakeem Olajuwon and the teammates dominated during that era. But when you had a new team jump into the fold and say, hey, first-time winners, and they did it back-to-back, they haven't done much since. But
yeah.
It was a breath of fresh air to see that, Jonathan, a new organization, and it'd be great for the NHL to have Columbus win the title, because now it puts the pressure back on Canada, where Toronto has been like the Cubs, haven't won it forever.
Yep.
It would just be great for hockey.
Well, that's amazing, Big C. I also want to say this segment is sponsored by the California Lottery. What can a buck do for you? Or sometimes $2, Big C. I kept saying we won the lottery back in 2016, but sometimes people told me it was just a premonition, and so it's going to be 2017 won by Charlton and Big C Sports, and a lot of that money goes to help the school. So go ahead and invest some money in the lotto, Big C. And I also want to ask you, Big C, when you talk about this national championship that's coming up on Monday night with the great Clemson and Dabo Swinney and your friend Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide and all the moonshine they bring, I want to step back a little bit. A great broadcaster by the name of Brent Musburger, he's come under a little bit of criticism. Remember that time he talked about the quarterback for Alabama, his girlfriend was very pretty. What was that, Blake McCarron? A.J. McCarron. And then it helped propel his girlfriend to stardom. She got more notoriety and made more money because of that than anything else. And now he's come under some criticism because he's saying the guy down in Oklahoma that hit the woman when he was at Florida State, Mixon, he should be given a second chance, and he's on to the right path, and the guy's he's atoned for it, and he's hoping that the guy can make it to the NFL. And there's some women who don't want to hear that. They think you should be punished forever. I think if the guy has atoned for what he's done wrong, again, we never condone it, never, ever. But you can only punish someone for so long. I hope he's learned his lesson. But I don't think anyone should say Brent Musburger should be fired over that. Do you, Big C?
I think people are overstepping their bounds, Charlton. People do a lot. What we're saying is that the entire front office staff and the owner of the New York Giants should be fired, Charlton.
Wow.
And the NFL's front office should be fired because they all knew what Josh Brown was doing over a couple of years. Actually, Mara hid it from everybody else when he moved Josh Brown's wife to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay? So we're going to jump on Brent Musburger, who had no carnal knowledge of what Nixon was doing, okay?
Right.
During this time. Versus the organization of the New York Giants. The head coach, Tom Coughlin, was aware of it, okay, John?
Yeah.
Before he got fired. The owner, the Mara family, knew what was going on with Josh Brown. The coaching staff, the NFL front office knew what was going on with Josh Brown, because they gave him a one-game suspension, okay? But they let this white kicker kick his wife's butt for a couple of years without any atonement from the league or the team. It was okay.
Yeah.
Nixon, everybody knows what happened with Nixon because it was on tape.
Yeah.
And today, ironically, he declared for the NFL draft. I don't know if he'll get drafted. He's talented enough, Charlton, to get drafted.
Yeah.
I think with all this cloud hanging over, at best, he will be a free agent.
Yeah.
He couldn't go back to school in Oklahoma either, so he was in a rock and a hard place. The precarious position that they put him in was he had no choice but to go.
Well, think about this, Big C, and I think we're the only program outside of ESPN brought it up for about 30 seconds. Back in the summertime, last spring, during the OTAs, Brock Osweiler was seen on camera where he pushed a woman twice coming out of a Texas pizza parlor, pushed her. He happened to be white, and so was the woman, so nothing ever happened to him. They said he was defending his wife. So that tells any guy or Mixon or anybody else, if you feel you're defending your spouse, you can push or hit a woman. It's the same thing. He pushed the woman hard enough for her to fall back, Big C. And he's going to be playing in the NFL playoff game this week. Do you think the same sportscasters calling for Brent Musburger to be fired for defending a young African-American athlete are going to say anything about the NFL shielding Brock Osweiler again for pushing that woman down in Texas, and nobody knows who she is, but it's still out there on tape, and it'll never go away. But they won't even talk about it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, all of these guys that won't talk about Oswald pushing a woman are the same guys that said he was a great addition to the Houston Texans, and he was a quarterback of the future, and he was a budding superstar, okay?
Yeah.
We've seen and heard all that about the guys. You know, they sit there and they say these things, but they don't know how to recant what they say, Charlton. They want to say, hey, we made a mistake. This guy made a fool out of us. We believed in him based on hype, not ability, based on hype. But this is the thing that you always get, Charlton, against those who are backing or cheering for African Americans in certain situations.
Yeah.
When we think about stuff that goes on, when hateful things are done to African Americans, and we see that basically every day in society,
yeah.
This is an isolated incident. It's always said that way. It's an isolated incident. We don't think anything was really meant by this. When someone does something wrong against a woman, it's just wrong, period.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's just wrong. When any man does something wrong, it's a heinous incident against a woman, regardless of race, Charlton. It's wrong. But the level of that they look at for culpability,
it's not looked at.
It's all different between the races. There's NFL quarterbacks, current NFL quarterbacks, who have been accused of assaulting women.
Yeah.
Not just Oswald, but others.
Playing in the playoffs this week.
They're in the playoffs. But, it was pushed under the rug. Why? Charlton, because he was one of the faces of the league. He was a superstar. So we can't let this be a detractor and pull him down, Charlton. When we look at incidents with African-American players and white players, Charlton, regardless of the sport.
Yeah.
White players get rehab, Charlton. Black players get suspended.
Yeah.
And when you talk about a sport which has more abuse than any other sport in America, it's going to be hockey. You draft teenage kids. You draft kids out of high school into the NHL. These kids are thrusted into the mainstream, Charlton, when they're still teenagers. They're not old enough to drink. If you look around the NHL in the past 30 years, Charlton, and see how many number one draft picks have become alcoholics and drug addicts because they were running around with grown men because they were put into the major leagues right off the bat, and they couldn't have it. A couple years later, they burned out. The alcoholics, the drug addicts, they were out of the league, but they swept under the rug and kept quiet.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to tarnish the league's record by admitting what you've done wrong to these young kids. You look at baseball, Charlton, where they drafted kids out of high school for decades.
Yeah.
And these kids, before they get to the major leagues, they're burned out, Charlton. They get thrusted into a minor league system where you got guys who have been lifelong minor leaguers.
Yeah.
And what do when they're not playing? They're drinking, they're partying. Because they have nothing else to do, Charlton.
Yeah.
You're in a minor league city. What are you going to do? You drink and you party. This is what athletes do when they're not on the clock.
Well,
if you have a family, this is what you do. So when these athletes do these things, Charlton, it's amazing how you never hear about white athletes either. Look at this, Charlton. In the NFL, we just finished with a marvelous season in the NFL.
Yeah.
How many white players, Charlton, were hit with drug suspension? You look at the office number on that stuff. 90% of the players that were hit with some type of substance abuse, they were African American.
Wow.
They don't drug test the white players, even though they're only 28% of the league. You don't drug test them either.
Well, I guess Jose Canseco, when he told how many players that are Caucasian that are using substances, they banned him. They wanted to ostracize him not only from the Hall of Fame, but even from all the social get-together that they do with the sports teams. Baseball, football, basketball, it's all the same. It's a lot like what Coach Carl talked about, and I know people, they don't like what he said because it's kind of like he didn't say anything when he was getting paid tens of millions of dollars about what he thought about players in the league, but now that he needs more money or wants to make more money, he's going to come out and write a book and throw everybody under the bus, a lot like he and Phil Jackson and their posse. I'm sure they don't know anyone that uses substances either, Big C. And I just want to say also, this segment is sponsored by United Labor Guaranteed $100,000 life insurance. We also are endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society. We work with all of the unions in the country under the AFL-CIO, and we're looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers because we simply want to put people back to work. And tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports for that. Go ahead, Big C.
You spoke about Phil Jackson and putting people under the bus now and popping.
Yeah.
Now, Phil Jackson played in the era of the NBA when they had no drug testing.
Yeah.
Okay? When players cocaine.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember the city that he played in when he won a couple of NBA titles. General manager or something now.
Yeah.
A city where,
you mean the Big Apple? The Big Apple, is that what you're saying, Big Z?
It went 20 miles a day when they had all these huge nightclubs and night events. So when you weren't playing, you're going to tell me that Phil was sitting at home reading the Zen book? Okay.
Well, why do you think they call him the Zen master? In order to get into a Zen state, what do most of these guys do? There's usually something that's a little bit smoky around them, Big C, from what I understand, okay?
He was sitting there with that bonfire up all the time, living in a purple haze. Him and Jimi Hendrix.
In fact, I thought he was going to hire Cheech and Chong when he realized they couldn't shoot three-point baskets. He decided not to hire them, Big C, but I understand what you're trying to say.
But, Phil to go out and blast players, when he lived that vicarious lifestyle, Charlton, when he was a player in the NBA, all athletes have lived that lifestyle. Unless you had a family at home, you were living that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to go out and talk about it, but you did. It's one of those unspoken rules like everything else. But, it's a lifestyle. It's what you can afford, and it's what you do.
Yeah.
A single man who has a copious amount of income, disposable income. Go out and show me some young Wall Street stockbroker, Charlie, who's single, who is not enjoying himself. That's cocaine alley in America when you look at Wall Street. But their wife will nobody follows.
Wait a minute, Big C. You're saying they do drugs on Wall Street. Are you really sure that you can say that that stockbrokers have been known to participate with illegal substances? Big C, is that what you're saying?
I'm not talking about the guys that I sit there and watch, Charlie. It's allegedly, okay?
Well, who was that actor that made that movie, The Wolf of Wall Street? Real good actor. We know the first was Michael Douglas. Yeah, and the first one was by Charlie Sheen and Michael Douglas. And we know they never did anything that involved drug scenes, right? Especially anything that helped them win an award. But I thought the greatest Wall Street that I saw, 1 and 2 were really good. But I want to give it up to Michael Douglas because he was the Gordon Gekko was off the hook. He was an amazing actor. And not only did he do it where people want to emulate it, so they made, part 2, they chronicled the life on Wall Street. So all these investment bankers, none of them never do cocaine, they never do marijuana. It's always they find someone who's a person of color, and they want to point the one camera at that. Would that be a little bit accurate, Big C?
Well, it honestly is, Charlton, when you see this. And when you see movies, in the theater, who have been the people that have been utilizing the cocaine, the narcotics, over the decades? I mean, go back to Scarface, Al Pacino, that dark.
Yeah.
His man had so much cocaine he needed to dump from. So, but when you look throughout, and when you look at the trafficking of these guys bringing it in, I remember the movie Bad Boys with Mark Lawrence and
Will Smith. Yeah.
The guys who were trafficking cocaine into America were not black. They were the cops, but they were not black. So you look up and down the list, Charlton, of all these guys bringing the narcotics, doing the narcotics in the movie. These are not the roles you normally see African Americans playing in the movie, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, they're glorified by white actors to be drug dealers, drug lords, drug users. But, if an African American plays that role, that's the type of role we thought he would be.
Well, remember the movie North Dallas 40? I think it had Nick Nolte, and they talked about what it takes to play professional sports. And if you're not finding something to alleviate the pain, then the teams will often find something to give to you. I think Irsay was giving out Oxycontin to his team, or was he just keeping it for himself? Big C, I kept. I thought he was bringing it for the team, so he kept all that to himself, Big C.
That was just his cut.
Okay, that was just his cut. And so we know that the world of sports, there's good and bad, whether it's boxing. Again, this is Real Talk, so if you don't want to hear Real Talk, then tune into other programs. Now, also, I want to bring up this point because we talked about Brett Musburger, and then the national championship game. Here's a young African-American quarterback for the University of Alabama. And if they win the national championship, I think Jamil Holloway, who played for Oklahoma, he was a freshman when they played for the national championship. And I think they beat Penn State, and Keith Jackson was his tight end, Big C. I think this would be the second African-American to win the national championship as a freshman, Big C. Would that be right?
He would be, Charlton, you know, that was a great Oklahoma team under the coach Barry Swifter. You know, he had David Overstreet in the backfield. Keith Jackson was at tight end. He had some tremendous defensive players on that team, Charlton. But and ironically, he took over for Troy Aikman, who had been injured.
Yeah.
You know, early that season, Troy Aikman broke his ankle in the third or fourth game of the season. Janelle Holloway took over and led Oklahoma to a national championship.
Yeah, and that was Troy Aikman. He actually broke his leg against Miami, and that's when Barry Switzer called Terry Donahue at UCLA and said, I have a guy that can throw the ball. You should take a look at him. And Aikman was out of Henrietta, Oklahoma, had a great arm. But that's because coaches looked out for each other back then, as well as players too, Big C. But you're right, to have a young African-American kid, this kid is the same kind of kid they would take 20 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago, and make him a running back or a wide receiver. Now he's leading his team to a possible repeat for a national championship team, Big C. Will that change the face of how the NFL looks at athletes when they become African-American? There was a time they took everyone, made them a defensive back or wide receiver. Do you think that trend is changing since you started following sports, Big C?
It has not really changed at the level that you think it is, Charlton. When we looked at these playoffs starting, okay, 3 of the 4 quarterbacks starting in this national championship run, Charlton, were African-American, okay?
Yeah.
The last 2 left standing are African-American. And now, if Clemson wins this game, Charlton, Monday night, it'll be the second time in 34 years that Clemson has won a national title, okay?
Yeah.
The last time they won was 34 years ago. They had an African-American quarterback at that time by the name of Homer Jordan, Charlton.
Yeah.
And they won the national championship. And what's ironic, this is Clemson's back-to-back year going in, Charlton, to the national championship. What number does Deshaun Watson wear?
Is it number 4, number 10?
He wears number 4, Charlton.
Number 4, okay, number 4.
And let me put that together. 2 times 4 is what?
Now you got a question about 2 times 4. Hold on. 1, let me Google it. 8, Big C, 8.
Okay, 2 times 4 is 8. When Clemson won the national championship, Charlton.
Big C, why you put me on the spot like that, man? You know I dropped out of high school. You trying to embarrass me on the radio? Go ahead, Big C.
When they won the national championship 34 years ago.
Yeah.
And this is their back-to-back year going in, so 2 times 4 is 8. The quarterback that they had, Homer Jordan, 34 years ago, wore the number 8.
Wow.
All of these numbers match together, Charlton, when you think about it. All right? He wore the number 8. Deshaun Watson, back-to-back years, wearing the number 4 equals the number 8. This is why, and one of the reasons why I feel that Clemson will win the national championship. Even though he's the better of the 2 quarterbacks, Clemson has the better offense this year compared to what Alabama had last year. And not a knock against Hurd and the rest of the Scarborough and the rest of the talent at Alabama.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't think that Alabama can recover from getting rid of Lane Kiffin. You know, now the media has to create an excuse.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they're going to have to do, is create an excuse, because I think with the talent of Clemson, and you don't mess with something this late in the season that's doing good.
Well, Jerry Jones does, Big C. He put Prescott on the bench, so maybe they drink from the same moonshine bucket, Big C. You Jerry Jones and Nick Saban, Big C.
That's the reason why Dallas will only play in 1 playoff game this year, Jonathan, because of what Jerry Jones did in his stupidity and his egotism of wanting to have Tony Romo have some glory.
Yeah.
The only glory Tony will have again is that the Dallas does not advance in the playoffs.
Well, you know, when you go back to the Clemson thing and Alabama, and I know we love sports and we love talking about politics and everything, but Las Vegas is built on people losing money, and they have Alabama as a 6-point spread. So I don't know if anyone can beat Clemson by 6 points, but a lot of people will start putting money, and I wonder if that line's going to move as we get closer to the game. But if more people put money on Alabama and Clemson wins, Alabama, that, you know, I'm going to tell you, Las Vegas is not into losing money, so you might have some moonshine clairvoyancy going on, Big C. I also want to say this segment is sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports. We're also looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers because we simply want to put people back to work. And Big C, I want to tell you, there's so much going on in the world of sports. I'm thinking about, we just talked about the great Brock Osweiler, and now he's being called to start again against the Raiders, a team that's also decimated by injuries at the quarterback position, and Cook out of Michigan State. If he's not good enough to play at the NFL level, then why even draft the kid in the first place? But I'm going to tell you, Denver let him go for a reason. I think the Raiders have a chance to win that game if they can force them to throw at least 25 to 30 times a game. That means they're not running the ball well. Give me your thoughts on what it would take for the Raiders to beat Houston on the road down in Texas, Big C, in this game coming up on the weekend.
Well, Charlton, I think, first of all, the Raiders are going to need a miracle. I mean, Connor Cook, you got to look at it. I mean, and I don't know what all the draft experts saw in him at Michigan State, Charlton.
Yeah.
This was a kid who could not complete 60% of his passes in college, okay?
No, I know. I know.
And so if you can't complete 60% of your passes in college, how are you going to do that in the NFL when you're facing pro athletes every week?
Yeah.
Where in college you might have faced one good defensive back a week. You're facing four of them in the NFL every week, and four good defensive linemen and three good linebackers.
Yeah.
So, this was a kid that, but he was white, and he was big, he was prototypical, 6'4", 6'5", 225, supposedly strong arm, but he couldn't get the ball to the receivers.
Yeah.
The Osweiler syndrome. So, the Raiders are really going to need to pull a rabbit out of the hat to win this one, even playing against Osweiler, because the defense that Houston possesses, Charlton, can play football.
Yeah, they're good.
They're used to being in the playoffs, Charlton. They've been there 3 of the last 4 years. They've been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But when you look at the Raiders, it's been over a decade since they've been there. So they only have 1 or 2 players on the entire roster, Charlton, who even knows what the playoffs mean. Crabtree's been there. The defensive end 51 is
Yeah.
Abram.
Yeah.
He's been there. So, there's a couple players, Charlton. So this is a team that is in foreign territory playing this late in the season. So, they have huge challenges. But, Charlton, when you lose your number 1 quarterback
Yeah.
this late in the year, and then you lose your number 2, and now you're playing the guy who only passed the balls in practice, a couple times, because he was a third-string quarterback, so he basically got to run the scout team.
Yeah.
And so he really doesn't understand the continuity of the offense, have the timing down and all of that. And I see Houston bringing everything at him that they can defensively, Charlton.
Yeah.
All type of packages. So they're going to keep Cook off balance. He's going to have to hit a couple lucky passes to keep the Raiders in the game.
Yeah.
Because, they're going to stack up against the run game. And out of stacking up against the run game, Charlton putting 8 guys in the box.
Yeah.
You're going to see the Houston blitz at least 40% of the time against Cook. And that's going to get him rattled, Charlton, and he's just not going to have a comfortable game.
Well, when you think about the Raiders' best game running this football was actually when they beat Denver and Oakland, but that was a couple of weeks ago. And it just shows you how much of a difference Carr makes on that team. And I know they're always talking about having a guy who's backup ready, and they want to spend the offseason trying to draft guys who can come in and take over when the starter goes out. But this is where Jack Del Rio can earn his money. I think if the Raiders can find a way to at least manage getting the ball in short passes, Big C, not worry about going downfield, I think they will have a chance. But Las Vegas has them as an underdog by 3 points, which doesn't put a lot of confidence on the side of Houston because they have the best kicker in Janikowski. Your thoughts, Big C?
But Charlton, they played earlier in the season down in Mexico. Okay?
Yeah.
So this is a rematch.
Yeah.
And yes, the Raiders won the game, but did they totally dominate the game?
No.
But that's the thing about it. Carr made the difference in the game when they played before. Nothing else. Carr made the difference.
Yeah.
You don't have Carr, Charlton. You don't have this quarterback that's a threat in the pocket. Carr was one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL this year.
Yeah.
Hands down. Regardless of status and how long he's been around the league, he was one of the top 5 quarterbacks. He was the main cog in turning this organization around, Charlton. When you think about them being double-digit wins,
Yeah.
making the playoffs for the first time in 12 years, it was led by their quarterback. He was that gunslinger out there. He was fearless. If you remember the game that he had against Tampa Bay,
Yeah.
where he passed for over
500 yards, yeah. Yeah.
And he just threw, if the Raiders had had 23 penalties in the game, he would have passed for over 600 yards.
Yeah.
So, this is a guy, Charlton, that was fearless in the pocket. But when you take that away, you also take away a lot of the confidence of the offense.
Yeah.
You got offensive linemen, they don't know what Connor Cook is going to be in the pocket. They knew what Carr was going to be. And that's a problem that you have. Now you got this young quarterback who's going to be a little skittish and maybe trying to be mobile.
Yeah.
So you got offensive linemen. This offensive line, Charlton, is huge. They were built as a pocket passing team. Now
Yeah.
you bring a quarterback in who's going to be mobile.
Yeah.
He's not going to be in the places that you expect them to be. Look for the Houston team, Charlton, to have 5 or 6 sacks against this guy. He's going to move away from his protection.
Yeah, that's going to be a very much a good thing to watch the Lion play, Big C. Another game we're looking at that's going to take place on Saturday, Big C. You have the Seattle Seahawks. They're up in the great Northwest. I think the best crowd in the NFL. They're an 8-point favorite over the Detroit Lions, which kind of stumbled into the playoffs. And the over-under is 42. The over-under in the Houston and the Raiders game, that's 36. But Seattle just hasn't looked that good. Thankfully for them, they're at home up there with the 12th man and all. But they always have a way of turning things on when it comes to the playoffs. That's why they've been to the Super Bowl twice in the last 4 seasons. Do you think this team has what it takes to make a run at another Lombardi Trophy, Big C? Your thoughts?
Jonathan, if a team has the right to be nervous, it's the Seattle Seahawks at home versus the Detroit Lions. Because you're Detroit, you come in here, nobody's giving you a chance. You have nothing to hold back, so you do everything that you can to win this game, to upset the Seattle Seahawks. You play unconventional football. But the one plus that Seattle has over Detroit, is that Detroit does not have a running game.
Yeah.
So that will aid to the Seattle pass rush getting after Matt Stafford. We will see how far he's advanced with his finger, Charlton. Since it was dislocated, about a month ago.
Yeah.
He started off fast in the last game against Green Bay and also even against Dallas.
Yeah.
But for some reason in the second half, he hasn't had anything. And that's been the difference in this 2-game slide that Detroit has had, Charlton. In the second half, Matthew Stafford has been non-existent. So it's going to be imperative for Seattle to get up early.
Yeah.
Because if they go in behind or even tied at halftime, Charlton, with Detroit will easily win this game because you've encouraged them to play football still.
Yeah.
Everybody else has gone in up at halftime on Detroit. Detroit has gotten up early in the first quarter.
Yeah.
But after that, they sit back and watch the other teams score points. So it's going to be imperative that Seattle gets them down. But also, Charlton, Seattle signed Devin Hester. Former All-Pro kick returner, set the NFL record for touchdowns.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Broke Deion Sanders' record. He's later the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta let it go early in the year, felt that he didn't have anything left. But they've had Richard Sherman back there returning punts.
Yeah.
Now, Richard Sherman's an all-pro cornerback who you need out there playing on the corner, playing a little shutdown.
Yeah.
Taking the chance of getting your cornerback hurt, Charlton, in this day and age in football.
Yeah.
Returning a kick. You don't want to take that chance. If you can just get somebody to kill it, that's all you need. You're not going to get the days of a Deion Sanders. And I'll tell you, the greatest one ever to be put back in during the playoffs was Darrell Green of the Washington Redskins when Joe Gibbs put him in during the playoffs.
Yeah.
And when they were playing the Detroit Lions, ironically, and Darrell Green returned one for the touchdown. That was the Detroit Lions' only chance ever getting to the Super Bowl with the Green Bay Sanders, and they had Eric Kramer playing quarterback.
Yeah.
But they made it to the NFC Championship game playing at RFK Stadium. But Darrell Green broke their back with a punt return for a touchdown. But you don't want to take that chance with Richard Sherman. Darrell was short, scatty, and can maneuver. Richard Sherman is long and lanky, and too many legs hanging down there for somebody to take a shot at.
Yeah, and he also played wide receiver when he played at Stanford, had a nice game against USC, but he is a multi-purpose athlete. But you're right, you don't pay him to try to do what Deion Sanders did back in the day. Plus, I think he's making a lot more money than Deion Sanders, Big C, so you don't want to put that at risk. Now, when we look at the games that happen on Sunday, this is a game coming up where the Miami Dolphins, they've already beat the Steelers. That's when Big Ben got knocked out of the game by being injured. This game is at Pittsburgh, and that stadium is so loud, and the way the Steelers play at home, they're a different team. I think Big Ben is healthy this time. I know Miami has a great running back and Ajayi, but I think Le'Veon Bell is one of the best running backs in the NFL this year, Big C. The quarterback position, we know the Steelers have that wrapped up. What are your thoughts on Mike Tomlin? Will he be a motivational coach enough, like Terry Bradshaw says, for them to win this game, Big C?
Well, he's trying to be a motivational coach, but also Miami has something extra going into the game. They have a quarterback that can play. I really like Moore. Moore is an excellent passer. He's a more heavy quarterback than what Tannehill is. The fact is that Tannehill's at number 1 draft, that they all keep waiting on to develop develop.
Yeah.
When you look at the balance that Moore brings to this offense, you know, he's a veteran that's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
He recognizes a lot more things than what Tannehill does at this stage of his career. So, you know, he can put different pressures on Pittsburgh than what they're not used to. They're not used to a guy who wants to put the ball down the field all the time. You saw what happened when they were playing Cleveland.
Yeah.
When RG3 got on the little heater streak.
Yeah.
Late in the year, when you're throwing the ball in, even in the playoffs over the past few years, Pittsburgh has had trouble. When they pulled it out over against Cincinnati last year because of some stupid penalties.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton had a great game. A.J. Green ate him up and down the field. So Pittsburgh can be had at this time of year if you have a quarterback who's willing to sit in the pocket, let routes develop, and don't take chances.
Yeah.
And that's what I see with Matt Moore. You know, we know the history of the Steelers when it comes to the playoffs. But they've proven already that they have a hard time with the guy. A guy had 221 yards last time they played each other.
Yeah.
They're going to have to be able to hold him in check. You can talk about how good Le'Veon Bell is, but if you got a back, if he comes back and gashes you for another 200 yards, you'll be sitting home the following week.
Well, it's going to be a great game, Big C, a great matchup there. I also want to say that this segment is sponsored by, we're working with a new insurance company coming up with Charlton and Big C Sports. We do athletic insurance and we cover events. Also working with professional teams as well as college and high school teams. So you can get that with Charlton and Big C Sports every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the iHeartRadio network. And let them know that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, another thing that I look at this game coming up, you talked about earlier where the New York Giants players were down in Florida and they had their shirts off, and you know, who knows what guys who have millions of dollars in the bank do with the girls in bikinis. I think that was upsetting to the media. But you have the other option. You could go up to Green Bay and freeze on the frozen tundra. But Rodgers has been as hot as any quarterback, I would say, coming into the playoffs. But he also has the number on Eli Manning. Your thoughts on this game? Green Bay's only favored by 4.5 at home. The over-under is 44.5. Your thoughts on the Giants being able to go into Lambeau and knock off the Packers, Big C?
Well, Charlton, I don't know if they can do that. You know, this game, when you look at Eli's numbers late in the season, tell me what game he lit anybody on fire with. I mean, they beat Dallas, what, 10-7?
Yeah.
Okay, they beat them. They lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, Charlton. I think they scored, what, 4 field goals?
Yeah.
1 touchdown and 4 field goals?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like there was a lot of great offensive productivity, plus he threw 3 picks in that game, Charlton.
Yeah.
You have to show me a game in the last month that Eli Manning has been the person to uplift the New York Giants. He's been their defense. But everybody's riding these receivers, and I think a big part of everybody riding these receivers being down in Miami is because Eli Manning has not been productive. They don't want to ride Eli Manning, so let's get some guys that were not on the field, okay?
Yeah.
This is what we're looking at. We're beating up guys that are not on the field playing, but they're out having leisure time. You're not talking about Eli Manning throwing 3 interceptions and looking at his QBR rating the last month of the NFL season and only going 500 in the last 4 games, Charlton. No one's talking about that. All of a sudden, the great distraction for the Giants became receivers going down to Miami, not the quarterback playing poorly. So when I look at the media, and no one else is going to talk about it like this, Charlton, how they're trying to lay the blame if the Giants lose this game to Green Bay, let it was the receivers that were not prepared, not Eli Manning having a terrible last month of the NFL season.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's been the reason why the Giants have not played that great. And even in games that they won, who had the blow-up games? Odell Beckham, look at his jack yards, Justin.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yard after catch. It's amazing. You know, but everybody was saying, well, Eli had a 300-yard passing game. Yes, but he only threw the ball 80 yards in the game.
Yeah.
Okay? 240 of it came from receivers running after they caught the ball. So let's be realistic about that. And this is what the NFL doesn't talk about, the mainstream media doesn't talk about, Charlton, is what the players do after they get the ball in the hand. The quarterback gets all the glory, but the players who get the yardage, it's like a running back, a guy, when he gassed the Steelers for 221, Charlton.
Yeah.
The ball was only handed off to him by the quarterback. And they can say, well, offensive line did a great job. They only did a great job for 5 yards, Charlton.
Yeah.
Okay? When you got a 60-yard running back, 60-yard run as a running back, show me what offensive lineman is leading the way down the field. He's not. He stopped running after 12 yards. he packed it in. Okay? It's all on the running back at that point.
Yep, that's true. And it's always about who performs. You know, talking about performance in college basketball, you had Butler, who's always a good team in the tournament, knocked off number 1 Villanova last night. And even last week, Oregon knocked off UCLA. So over time, you're going to have these college teams, you know, beating each other up and knocking each other off when it comes to the rankings. And we talked about how Kansas going for 50 in a row at their home stadium, Big C. So a lot of good things happening in the world of college sports. West Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia, Villanova, North Carolina, Duke, Louisville, Kansas, Baylor, and Georgetown. You still have Wisconsin and UCLA hanging around the top 12, Big C. But all that matters is, like Beckham says, what do you do when you play? Everybody has something they do to get ready for a game, Big C. And so that's always important. If you look around the NBA, last night we had some great games going on in the world of NBA basketball. But a lot of these guys, you know, they go out and party hard too because they try to stay relaxed. We had some scores: Atlanta 111, Orlando 92, Charlotte 123, Oklahoma City 112. It was Milwaukee 108, New York and the Posse on Broadway 104, Big C. Phil Jackson has to find a way to get that team winning. Chicago 106-94 over Cleveland, even though they didn't have Love, and also their great point guard Kyrie Irving was out of that game as well, Big C. And then Miami at Sacramento. Miami got the win over Sacramento last night, and then Golden State beat Portland again. So it's always about the athletes, what they need to get better, Big C. But I want to bring something up to you outside of the NFL and outside of the world of NBA basketball. We talked about the great Donald Trump trusting Vladimir Putin more than he trusts the Secret Service and also the national, our defense agency. All the guys that go out and find out what's going on, okay? When I look at the world of golf, they keep hoping that these guys can upseat Tiger Woods as far as media coverage. Well, Jason Day is the number 1 golfer in the country, actually in the world right now, but he's not sexy to watch the way Tiger was. Your thoughts on Tiger Woods? I know you might have to walk away from Alabama football just for a minute, but if he comes back, is he as popular in the South as he is maybe nationally, Big C? Does that make any sense?
Well, when you think about states like Georgia, Charlton, and Tiger Woods is the most popular golfer in the state of Georgia. It's where you have the Masters in Augusta.
Yeah.
Where you have the FedEx Cup in Atlanta. The 2 biggest golfing events of the year. Because the FedEx Cup, you win it, you win $10 million.
Yeah.
You win the Masters, you have immortality.
Yeah.
And just yesterday, Charlton, Tiger declared that he'd be back for 3 major tournaments this year.
Yeah.
So the golfing world is ecstatic right now. When you think about ticket sales, they were already boosted 20% today after he made that announcement yesterday. They had a 20% spike
wow.
in ticket sales. So when you think about the media and Tiger, people that say Tiger's not this anymore. Tiger is this. Tiger is golf. Golf was nothing until Tiger came along a decade and a half ago, Charlton. It was just moving along. No one cared. You can have golf on Sunday. Everybody was doing yard work, okay?
Yeah.
Everybody. The wife had you out there doing all the honeydew jobs, all right?
Moonshine too, Big C. Tell the truth.
Tiger Woods came along, Charlton. The world changed. The complexion of the game changed, Charlton. But the way everyone looked at the game, it was Tiger against the field. And it's still that way with Tiger coming back, Charlton.
Yeah.
Tiger against the field. Because no one is as sexy as Tiger when it comes to the game of golf. He doesn't have to win, Charlton. He just has to be there. And we all hope that everybody in golf, even the players on the PGA Tour, want to see Tiger win a major because it's more money in their pocket. That's what they all want to beat him, Charlton.
Yeah.
But they all want to see him win because if Tiger wins, think about the viewership. Think about the sponsorship. Think about the money that trails along. Tiger Woods, during his time in golf, Charlton, created more millionaires in golf than golf had ever had prior to his arrival. Okay?
Wow.
So when you think about the impact that he had on other players, this is the reason why you never saw players blasting Tiger Woods, Charlton. This is the same reason why you never saw Wall Street blasting President Obama. Because when you think about the amount of money that's been made in America since President Obama has been made, people always talk about the debt that America incurred. But Obama didn't create those wars that created $15 million in debt.
Yeah.
$15 trillion in debt for America. But when Obama took over his presidency, after the second day, because after the first day of his presidency, the stock market was down to 700, Joe.
Yeah.
The stock market now is at 19,000 and about 840. I think it closed at 841.
Yeah.
So when you think about the amount of money that wealthy Americans have made, their wealth has tripled since this man has been president for the past 8 years.
Yeah.
It's all of those who hate what he has created for America, the embodiment that he has brought America out of a depression. You think about the people that were losing their homes, and a lot of athletes lost their homes also, Charles.
Yeah.
As well as wealthy and middle and lower class people. When you think about the jobless rate when he took over in America, the unemployment was at about 11%. 11%, Charles. When you think about that. Now, today, unemployment is 4.3%, Charles.
Yeah.
Think about the number of people that he has put back to work in America. When you talk about making America work great again,
Yeah.
for anybody to exceed what he has done, unemployment in America has to go down to 2%, okay?
Yeah.
He took it from above 11 to underneath 5. So think about the amount of people that he put to work. You cannot equal the number of people that he has put to work since the Great Depression, the Second Depression. He did what Teddy Roosevelt did, Charlton, and the job creation. You think about the auto industry alone, where you save over 180,000 jobs
Yeah.
in one industry. And yet we have the president-elect who's walking around bragging about 1,400 jobs. 1,400 versus 180,000. This shows you where America is being anal about.
Well,
that it's not about what a guy creates for this country.
Yeah.
And you think about sports expansion and how television contracts have grown under Obama's watch in America. Everything parallel.
Yeah.
When you think about these collective bargaining agreements that they've had in baseball, in the NBA, the agreements that they had in the NFL, all of these financial increases have come under President Obama. So when we talk about politics and sports paralleling,
Yeah.
I think it was baseball, 3 weeks ago when they signed a new collective bargaining?
Yeah.
To not have a closeout?
Yeah.
And increase the money of everybody. Look at what the NBA just did a few months ago, Charlton, when they signed their collective bargaining. That everybody now is worth a 30-40% increase.
Yeah.
All of these increases, Charlton, have come under President Obama. So when you talk about an American president who has helped out on all levels, this is a guy who has done it. You know, he saved the banking industry. He saved the housing industry.
Yeah.
He saved the auto industry. He increased revenue in sports. So when you talk about a guy that so many people hate, and they hate him because of what he was doing for America, Charlton.
They hate because he's African.
American lives.
Yeah, being African American also makes it difficult for a lot of people to accept it. Even if they talk about repealing Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, well, replace it before you repeal it. When you go in and trade in that Escalade, Big C, do you have a new one before you trade in the old one, or do you just hope that they give you another one, Big C? Which one do you do?
Well, Charlton, I have in line up. So when we have politics and talk about the first thing we're going to do when we get into office is repeal Obamacare, you need to ask those 30 million Americans, those people who voted for you or did not vote for you, what do I do now without health insurance? So everybody who hates President Obama,
They're going to pray, Big C. They're going to teach them to pray, Big C.
Go in and ask yourself, okay, if Obamacare is repealed, well, how long is it going to be before you replace it with something? So you're out there for an entire term of a presidency now without insurance and can't get insurance because you can be denied because you have a pre-existing condition.
Well, he still
all the insurance companies know about.
He still
it's on your plan.
He still hasn't showed his tax return, so I doubt he's going to have any type of health care plan before he does that. Funny thing, I went to the doctor to get some cough medicine for my sore throat, Big C. The first thing they said is, "Do you have insurance?" And I said, "Yeah, I got the Trump plan." They say, "What is it?" I said, "I don't know yet, but I'm sure it's going to be good, Big C." They say, "Call me when you have the insurance card." But I also want to say, Big C, go ahead, Big C.
What I would like for this to happen, and I know we cross politics and the sports all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I would love for all of those senators who are going to repeal Obamacare. Now, they also have a government insurance plan.
Oh, yeah.
Insurance plan.
Yeah.
They should abolish their health plan, okay?
Yeah.
They're going to abolish America's health plan. Now, remember, America, you voted for these people.
Yeah.
You're going to allow them to maintain their health plan that comes out of your dime. Okay?
Yeah.
You pay the taxes that pays their health plan. They're talking about your premiums going up. Theirs never go up because you pay them. As American citizens, you pay all these congressmen, senators, and representatives.
Yeah.
You pay their health insurance.
You know what's funny?
Ask these people
Yeah.
to abolish their health care until they put a better plan in for you since they're going to abolish Obamacare. Do that for America. Show that you're about America. Abolish what you receive as benefits. Matter of fact, even abolish your salary. Say, we're not going to take salary until we put an affordable health plan in for America. We're going to give up our salary. We're going to give up our health care. See how many of them care about you by doing that.
Big C, that is such a powerful way to end the show. And I'm telling you, it's easy to talk about what you're going to do to replace what somebody already has. But as the great Sam Jackson always says, what's in your wallet? And no matter what they do, you got to have, America has to wake up. When you trust Vladimir Putin more than you do your own country, the intelligence division, how are you going to take their advice on what they say we should do for our country to keep it safe? Also, in the world of sports, everybody loves competition. You got to compete for what you want in this country. We love Big C Sports because we're the only freestyle sports show in the universe. We're doing freestyle, no teleprompters, no producer in the ear, and we want to tell you real sports talk every time. Big C, I know you're looking forward to the football games coming up over the weekend and the college game coming up on Monday. Everybody should be happy about seeing a new champion crown in the world of college football and maybe even also in the NFL. We know we're going to get a new one there. And as we always say, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide. Follow Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. And I always want to say there's never any room for domestic violence. If you know any woman going through trouble, please call 911. She should not have to go through that garbage on her own. And as we always tell you, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Follow Charlton and Big C Sports. And we thank you. We appreciate you. And we hope that you have a super fantastic day.